Part 1 of 2. Another month had passed and Kojo had yet to show any signs of waking up. The days had turned into a blur of feeding Tayu, changing his diapers, and sleeping hours at Kojo's side, hoping to see any flicker of movement or hear his voice. Shinobu, Ruru, and the rest of the staff had done all they could. You had become quite popular at the Butterfly Estate, bringing your motherly warmth and love. The scent of fresh flowers and the gentle coos of your baby had become a part of the mansion's absence. Despite the circumstances, there was a sense of comfort that filled the air. With nothing left to do but wait, you settled into a routine of caring for your son and visiting Kojiro. Each day was a struggle against the creeping despair that threatened to overwhelm you. But the sight of your husband's peaceful face and the warmth of his hand in yours kept you going. It was around 10:30 a.m. when you decided to go on your evening stroll with Tayu through the wilderness surrounding the Butterfly Estate. The crisp air and gentle rustling of the leaves helped clear your mind from any worries that had been plaguing you. The sun was high, casting dapple shadows across the ground as you carried your son in a sling against your chest. His small body was warm, a comforting weight as you walked along the path that was well troubled by the demon slayers who had come and go here and there. You made sure to bring some essentials for your outing, like a gourd-shaped canteen of water, trail mix, and a couple of flat diapers, and a small basket to keep Tayu warm if it got chilly. As you walked, you talked to him, pointing out the different plants and trees that lined the path. His wide red and golden eyes took in the beauty around him, and you couldn't help but wonder if he's at or past that certain age of recognizing familiar objects and people and understanding objects' permanence. You assumed it wouldn't be long until he sang his first word, maybe even calling out to Kojiro, which brought a bittersweet smile to your lips. You hoped that when he did, Kojiro would be awake to hear it. As you walked along the path, you couldn't help but feel a sense of uneasy creeping up your way. The trees seemed to lean in closer, the shadows a bit too deep, and the whispers of the wind a tad too eerie. Ah! The scream echoed the scenery woods, shattering the peaceful silence. You jolted at the sound, your motherly instincts going on high alert as you held your baby close to your chest and quickly scanned the area for any signs of danger. Just then, you spotted a familiar figure run out from the thick foliage ahead, stumbling and looking over his shoulder in a frantic state. It was Tanjiro, his eyes wide with fear, his breathing heavy and ragged. His usual calm demeanor was replaced with stoic panic. Tanjiro? You called out, your voice laced with concern. As you saw his disheveled appearance, he turned towards you, his eyes wide with terror as his gaze landed on the baby in your arms. "Run away, Aki! It's not safe here!" he exclaimed, his eyes wide with fright. You were confused by the teen's frantic behavior. He's not one to be scared without reason, especially with his strong sense of duty and the calmness he usually exudes. "Oh, what's wrong?" you ask, your voice firm yet tangled with urgency. Then you feel a dark, strong presence approaching. It was thick and heavy and full of malice intent. The hairs on the back of your neck stood up as the very air seemed to vibrate with malice. You tightened your grip on Tayu, preparing to defend him with everything you had. Was it a bear? Or perhaps a demon? Despite it being broad daylight, your heart raced as you readied yourself for whatever was pursuing Tanjiro. "Get back here, you Komodo brat!" A harsh, grunting voice called out from the same direction Tanjiro had come from. Wait, you knew that voice. Your eyes widened when I'm going to butcher his name. Hengazuaka, the angry swordsman, stomped through the foliage, his bright red Homato mask glinting in the damped sunlight as he clenched two sharpened knives in his hand. I'm sorry, Tanjiro exclaimed and took off running yet again. You looked on in expression, watching Tanjiro run around in a big circle, panting heavily, as the said man wasn't far behind, his feet thumping against the ground. You understood now. It must have seemed Tanjiro had once again made the swordsmith angry by breaking his sword yet again. In firmness, it wasn't like Tanjiro was a clumsy oof who couldn't hold a weapon right. Killing demons was a tough job, and even the strongest of swords couldn't always stand up against the broad strength. But Henowakaza? That man, was a violent mix of explosive anger and unrivaled craftsmanship. His temper was sharp as the swords he forged, and when it came to his pride in his work, well, let's just say it was akin to that of a mother lion protecting her cubs. Now, Kojiro warned you of how competitive this man is and how easily he's angered. No matter how most demon slayers are afraid to have him as their swordsmith. You and Tanjiro were by far the only brave ones to have chosen Henokazuha to be your personal swordsmith. His blades are like any other, but they come with a cost, a fiery temper. But ever since you became a mother, you had stepped down from being a demon slayer. Thus, you had returned your, I'm not saying the word because I know I'm going to accidentally say a word I don't want to say, to the man. And of course, he was furious, not because you didn't need it anymore, but because you never used it. Well, except that one time when you fought against that lesser demon, Yongyim. Why would you when you could manipulate ice and snow? Henokazuha-san, please calm down and leave my boy alone. You said plainly. It's not like Tanjiro did it on purpose. I'm going to kill him, he snapped back, ignoring you. You stared at him incredibly inside. Swords are meant to be broken either way. Not my swords! The brutally man's roar echoed through the forest, his Hotoro mask frightening as he chased after Tanjiro. You couldn't help but laugh a little at the absurdity of it all. Henkazua's over-the-top reaction to his broken swords had become somewhat of a running gag to you, and yet, every time it felt like a new structure to behold. Granted, you had your own share of run-ins with the grumpy swordsman, but you knew you couldn't let this go on. Someone could seriously get hurt, especially if Henkazuha-san got his hands on Tanjiro. Slowly, you took a deep breath and concentrated. A thin layer of frost began to form under Hangu's sandals. Unnoticed at first, but rapidly growing thicker, the ground beneath his feet started to crackle as the temperature dropped rapidly. Within moments, the ice had reached his ankles, and he let out a yell of surprise. What the? His hidden eyes widened as he tried to move, but his feet remained firmly frozen to the ground. You stepped closer, your expression a mix of amusement and smugness. Henkazuha-san, you said calmly, you really should learn to control your temper. You damn ice witch. He growled and relentlessly starts stabbing at the ice with his knives, trying to break free. Tanjiro had stopped running and now was taking a much-needed breather near a pine tree. If you'd make you better, how about I treat you to some mitresi dango, you offered sweetly, watching Henkazuha struggle against the ice. That's your favorite, isn't it? The mention of his favorite sweet dumplings had an intimate effect as he paused. He was certain of it. Just to be sure, you added, I'll even add extra sweet soy sauce. The grumpy man nearly swooned. With a grumble, he agreed. Fine, he said, the word coming out of a mix of defeat, annoyance, and anticipation for the sweet treat. You couldn't help but chuckle at his expression. The ice around his ankles cracked and melted, leaving him standing in the now waterlogged ground. You then turned to Tanjiro to call out for him. You too, Tanjiro. I'll treat you to some konpituo. The young slayer looked at you with a mix of relief and bewilderment. Still trying to catch his breath from the intense chase, he nodded gratefully before making his way over to you, his cheeks tinged with the slightest blush. "Thanks, Akimi," he managed to say. His cheeks flustered with a little pinkness, but it was kinda cute, though his eyes still remained fixated on Hentezua, who was already grumbling about the state of his socks and sandals.